Hello, my students. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies, TV shows, and animes. And today I'm going to be doing a movie roundup video where I talk about the movies, TV shows, and animes I watched in the last couple of weeks or so. Oh my god, the last few weeks have been insanely busy. I was swarmed with my own short film, assignments, projects, yada yada, studying from USC, which is way more heavier of a workload than the community college I was studying before. But also just life in general. I have been really busy. I planned to watch so many animes and so many movies, and so many of them I have to postpone to February. But I ended up still watching movies because I'm a cinephile. Starting off, I watched Saltburn, and I recently just did a review on it. Once again, it tries too hard to be quirky and edgy and weird. I don't think Emerald Fennell was able to write anything that interesting or groundbreaking. The movie thinks it's smarter than it is, and I think the only cool thing is that in the first act of the film, we have a British school story, and terms like revision and tuition are being thrown around, and it's a little nostalgic for me as a Hong Konger. 6 out of 10. Then, for my intro to film studies class at USC, I got to watch Battleship Patkin by Sergei Eisenstein. Again! I already saw this film last year or a couple years ago when I was taking film history class at my community college. This time around, we didn't watch the whole thing. We only watched chapters 1, 2, and 4. I wish we watched the whole thing. But yeah, on a rewatch, I still like it quite a bit. It's still a very enjoyable film. I haven't seen that many silent films, but this one is pretty fun and entertaining. The editing of this film is revolutionary and set the basis for all sorts of editing tricks, and I really respect that. 8 out of 10. And then immediately after that, we watched A Man with a Movie Camera by Dziga Vertov from 1929. Again, this movie and Sergei Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin are always lumped together because both of them also represent this new wave of Soviet cinema and the montage and editing and all that stuff. And oh my god, this movie is an 80-minute long, unrelenting audio visual vomit. And sometimes it's enjoyable, sometimes it's just very exhausting. May I remind you that this is still shot and edited like a silent film with all the fast motion and wide shots. And yes, again, some moments are really creative and fun, but also at the same time, 80 minutes of this is just so much, and I don't think I'll ever see this again. It's very tiring. Yeah, and I'm not giving this a score because I have no idea what kind of score to give this. Then I watched Wanda for my American film history class from the year 1970, directed by Barbara Loden. This is a piece of slow cinema that I really respect, and I also really like how grimy, real, and messy it is. It shows a side of American life and feminism that not a lot of films back then portray. However, this movie is just not my kind of slow cinema. If you're into the whole Paul Schrader school of slow cinema, I have to say that my kind of slow cinema is art gallery or mandala, while this one is more of a surveillance camera film and it's just not really my cup of tea. There's nothing all that alluring or moving or anything about the slowness of this film other than the fact that it's slow. 7 out of 10. In the same class, we watched a short film called Butterfly from 1967, and it's interesting, I guess. I don't know at this point. War is bad. Vietnam War is bad, and yeah, that's all I can say. Then, a couple days later, I went to the Aero Theater at Santa Monica to watch Taipei Story by Edward Yang as part of the Edward Yang retrospective. And unfortunately, I was really stressed out at the time and also very sleep deprived because of my short film. So given how slow of a film this is, I nearly fell asleep. However, it's still a good movie. What I can say that is that this is starkly different from the masterful, operatic, deeply moving film that Yi Yi is, a film that I constantly worship, but it still amazes me how subtle and nuanced this film is. The use of wide shots, the long takes, the stunning neo-industrialist architecture, the neon signs. The Fujifilm neon sign scene is honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Bokeh reflected on a glass window of a phone booth. It is drop dead gorgeous. And also, I did not know Ho Xiaoxian could act so well, so kudos to him. And I like that this movie soaked in urban depression and hopelessness. It's just that this movie isn't as magical or as philosophical as Yi Yi. To me, Yi Yi is the holy grail of slice of life films, and this one just doesn't quite scratch the same itch, unfortunately. So yeah, feeling a decent 8, but I definitely have to rewatch this one. Then immediately afterwards, I watched In Our Time. I didn't watch the whole thing. I only watched the first 35 minutes or so. So I give this an 8 out of 10, but really it's not even rated. I shouldn't even rate it. But whatever I've seen, it seems interesting. The earlier Edward Yang is way more accessible, as expected, and he had a witty and humanistic sense of humor. The framing and cinematography are not that mind-blowing, but the story is charming from what I've seen. So kind of an 8, I don't really know. Then I watched Showa, the definitive epic 9.5 hour long documentary about the Holocaust. But again, I'm not rating it because I only saw the first 40 minutes of it or so in order to get into the mood of the Zone of Interest, because immediately afterwards I rewatched The Zone of Interest. And yeah, this is my first time ever rewatching a film in a theater, and by that I mean watching the film in a theater and then watching it again also in a theater. In fact, at the same theater at AMC Century City. And I have to admit, it's still a very unenjoyable film. But this time around, it feels way less boring to me. Maybe it's because I sort of know what to expect. I sort of know the structure of the film. But also, this movie comes off way more impactful and intense on a second watch. This is a very bold and powerful artistic statement, and the sound design is haunting. This is the best film of 2023, arguably. 9 out of 10. Then, for my Intro to Film Studies class, I watched Alberto D by Vittorio De Sica. Again, it's a rewatch, again, because the first time I watched it, it's from a film class as well. But on a second time, I loved it way more. I was able to relate to the main character so much more. For some reason, this film reminds me a lot of Made in Hong Kong. I love that movie because it shows a depressing side of everyday life, being poor, being lonely. And this time around, watching Alberto D, it sort of makes me feel the same way. 9 out of 10. Then yesterday, for my American film history class, I watched Primary by Robert Drew, which is a 55-minute long bare bones documentary about the presidential elections from 1960. It's called Direct Cinema. And again, I've been really sleep deprived lately, and I almost fell asleep yesterday. But what I can say is that I really respect Direct Cinema and what it does, but again, I hate to say this, but it's just not my cup of tea. There's not much to say on a technical level as well. I mean, direct cinema is cool and all, but where's my indirect cinema at? Why not indirect cinema? Where's my David Lynch? Where's my Tarkovsky? Bring them over right now. 6 out of 10. So yeah, these are the movies I've seen in the last couple of weeks. I have a lot to catch up on. I spent the last 2 nights watching John Woo's new film Silent Night, and I still haven't freaking finished it. I've also been binge watching The Bear Season 2, and by that I mean watching 1 episode per day, because I keep running out of time to do that. So yeah, hopefully that goes through. Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.